What you're watching here is not a video game. This is real. This is the future of warfare. And it's a lot cheaper and simpler than you might think. 2 years into a war with no end in sight, and with continued military aid from the US and Europe at risk of drying up completely, Ukraine is facing a dire shortage of artillery, funding, and troops. But first-person view drones, known as FPVs, are helping to close that gap. Before the war, FPV drones were mainly for hobbyists or drone racers. But since Russia's invasion, Ukraine has pioneered an entirely new way of using them, fitting them with explosives and using them as kamikaze-style attack drones. After all, they're fast, they're agile, and most of all, they're cheap, running about $500 a piece. Not a bad way to take out a $5 million Russian tank. The biggest issue with the drones is that they're really hard to fly.
My first time flying it, I crashed it. It is very much a skill. It requires very technical, pilot skill and a lot of practice.
Audi here is a former Marine who runs a nonprofit called Aerial Relief Group that helps with fundraising and delivery of drones and other military equipment in Ukraine. He's seen firsthand how much FPV drones have changed the battlefield.
No one has ever had this capability as widespread and employed as commonly as it is now. It has changed how we think of modern 21st century war.
Last fall, Audi visited a drone pilot school run out of an old agricultural warehouse on the outskirts of Kyiv.
For such kind of drones, there also could be used some custom kind of bombs.
This is Dima, a former IT professional who helped to start the UA drone school in April 2022, after realizing just how much training was needed to learn to fly FPV drones and how quickly the military needed to scale up this technology. The learning curve for FPV pilots training for combat is steep. So schools like this one are opening around the country to train pilots not only on how to fly them, but how to use them as part of broader battlefield tactics and strategy.
It's not real, of course, it's not a real missile. It is just for education purposes, so our students also learn how to fly, because as far as you already learn the basics, it is very important to learn how to fly with the extra load, because the dynamic of the drone significantly changed.
The students here receive instruction from drone experts, practice on VR simulation programs, and fly training courses to simulate tracking Russian tanks and dropping weapons on targets. FPV drones do, of course, have limitations. The pilots need to be within a kilometer or two of their targets, and the drones can be jammed by the enemy. That means pilots have to be close to the front lines. Still, FPVs are so important to Ukraine's national security that President Volodymyr Zelensky recently announced an entirely new branch of the army dedicated to autonomous warfare and drones.
Дрони, безпілотні системи довели свою ефективність в боях на землі, у небі та в морі.
The Ukrainian government has also set a goal of producing 1 million FPV drones within Ukraine by the end of this year, a 100-fold increase from 2022. To do that, Kyiv is boosting domestic capacity to get around the fact that 90% of the world's drone parts currently come from one country, China, a Russian ally. Kyiv's pioneering use of drones has changed the face of battle in eastern Ukraine, but it's also attracted the attention of non-state actors too.
$500 is not particularly cost prohibitive to start your own air force.
Hamas, for example, used commercial drones as part of its October 7th attacks. Drug cartels in Mexico have used drones to terrorize local populations.
This is the future of warfare, and I think this will lead to developments that we're probably not even expecting right now.
But back in Ukraine, Dima and the others at the drone school are focused on what's happening on the ground right here, right now. They know full well that FPV drones are no substitute for fresh military aid from the US that's been delayed by political infighting in Washington. But they have no control over that. What they do have control over is a small piece of technology that could make a big difference against a much larger enemy. Near the front lines, they're still flying high to defend their country.
Yeah, cool.
For GZERO World, droning on here, I'm Alex Kliment.